Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Lisa Kassler. I am with DCCM. We are the engineering consultant under contract with NDOT to perform design services for this project. I want to go ahead and let the team go ahead and do a brief intro for themselves. Richard Gilliott and Bill Smith are not sitting at mic, so I'm introducing them. Richard is the NDOT project manager, and Bill Smith is the Crawfordsville District Technical Services Director. I'll let everyone else.
And I'm Amanda Johnson with EMCS. We are a sub to DCCM and doing the traffic analysis on the project.
And I'm Tim Watson. I'm the district traffic engineer. Bill is my supervisor.
I'm Tom Platty. I'm the signal systems engineer for the west central part of the state.
Fantastic. So wanted to go ahead and give an update to the project. As you all know, that the first section of the project is complete in place from Shiloh Park Drive to just east of Raceway. And then the section in Marion County from Raceway Road to 465. You all know is currently under construction for the Greenfield District. But what we are here to talk about today is the next section of the project that's currently under design development from Shiloh Park Drive west to County Road 671. So as you all know, we had a public hearing for the project back in February for the entire corridor. However, only the section from Crotterman Court to Shiloh Park Drive has been funded with construction dollars for NDOT. So that's the only section that has detailed design that was included. So during that public hearing, we had many different comments, and we had a recurrence of some comments for that specific section. So need for some additional pedestrian crossings across US 36, so north-south, and then need for additional access to the different approaches due to the concrete curbed barrier. It's a concrete curb median that's going through these sections. So we had to start looking at different options to be able to address the concerns of the community so that we could respond to those in the environmental document. So that's what we've been doing since. So we came up with a solution looking at just that first phase that's under design and developed a solution to address some of those concerns of the community. In your packets, just want to make sure, draw your attention to this information that was provided. There's aerial photos depicting the proposed design on 11 by 17 sheets. And what we had proposed, and we've been talking to all of the representatives from your town, is adding in some displaced pedestrian crossings with early left turns at strategic locations along the corridor. There is an existing location that is out there right now at Harvest Landing that we looked at, and it seems to be functioning well, and it addresses the north-south crossing on 36, as well as opportunities for early turns ahead of the major intersections, so we can alleviate the congestion at those intersections. So we've got the existing location at Harvest Landing, and there are 3 other locations identified, and those are depicted on this map: Avon Village Parkway, Gordon Drive, and Shiloh Park Drive. So each of those locations would allow for 2-stage pedestrian crossing, a left turn in advance of an existing intersection, and U-turn opportunities at those locations as well. And one thing to note about those U-turn locations is we had coordination with Avon, the fire department, got information on the length of their fire trucks, and made sure that those vehicles could make that U-turn as well. And if we needed to make some adjustments to widen those, we did that. And that's what you see in this in this document here. So in addition to that, we've had several meetings with Ryan and Steve and that whole team to walk through these different options, pros and cons. And one of the things that was identified was to potentially include 2 Hawk signal pedestrian crossings between Crottman and Satori and County Road 900 and Avon Village Parkway. And you see those approximate locations on this on the schematic as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Amanda to get into more detail on the benefits to these different crossings, how they function, what her traffic analysis has come up with. And then she's going to be able to show us some simulations of those intersections, how they will function. So I think that in that same packet, you all should have this as well. I think that we'll go to that next.
So as Lisa mentioned, we did a traffic study for this entire study area. What you see in front of you is just some excerpts from that traffic study. With working with NDOT and the town, we considered many different alternatives. And as Lisa mentioned, this was the one ultimately that we are proposing. So with that said, on the sheet that you should have in your packet, it highlights some of those benefits, again, that Lisa just mentioned. With the three lanes in each direction, we are closing the median. So with the additional displaced pedestrian crossings with early lefts, it also allows more places, more access possibilities for folks who are maybe getting access changed with this project. It also improves the safety, both for drivers and for pedestrians. So currently there are not many pedestrian accommodations along the corridor. This plan allows strategic placing or crossings along the corridor for folks to cross north-south, as well as providing crossing locations at the east-west at the main intersections as well. For the drivers, we are improving safety because we're removing some of those U-turns or left turns from the existing traffic signals. In traffic engineering and with traffic safety, anytime you introduce left turns, heavy left turns, or any conflicting traffic movements, you increase a risk of crashes. So these are dispersing those left turns a little bit. For the pedestrians itself, at one single crosswalk location, crossing north-south of US 36, a standard intersection, like we would have a standard 4-legged intersection at a traffic signal, would have 5 conflict points. So 5 areas where the pedestrian would have to potentially look for oncoming traffic from right turning traffic, from through movements, from other turning traffic. At these displaced locations, there's only 2, just the through movements. So those are kind of highlighted in the top here. What I want to draw your attention to a little bit on the bottom of this page is, again, just a sample of the traffic analysis that was conducted. The very first line, the second line down is, we included the first line, so the 2020 no build. That means in 2020, the existing, that's when this study was originally conducted. That was the travel time along this corridor from Shiloh Crossing Drive to Avon Village Parkway. That's what this table at the bottom is really highlighting, that area, because that is where we're adding or potentially adding these additional locations. So those operations were already at level of service C. Generally, we want to see a level of service C or better. Anything, D or better. So anything level service E or F are things that mean the intersection is approaching overcapacity, increased delays, increased safety concerns, all of that. So once we project out into 2045, which was the horizon year, the build scenario, which is that second row down, that is the 3 lanes in each direction with not any of these displaced pedestrian crossings. So that was our base scenario when starting this analysis. So you can see that, I apologize, I misspoke. The 2045 line there is what we're proposing. So it is with the displaced intersection and the added travel lanes and the early lefts, but only allowing pedestrians at those displaced crossings. And when we're talking about pedestrians for this table, we're only talking about pedestrians crossing US 36, so north-south. They'll be accommodated east-west for all of these. The third line down, that is with the 3 lanes in each direction. No U-turns no U-turns at additional locations, so not including these displaced left turns, and only including pedestrians crossing at the existing signalized intersections. So at Shiloh Crossing Drive, for instance. You can see the travel time significantly increases on both of those eastbound and westbound directions, and the level of service is E and F. So that is the least desirable situation for these. The last line there shows essentially a combination of both. So we are including pedestrians both at the original intersections, currently signalized intersections, as well as the additional displaced crossing intersections. We're adding travel lanes and including those U-turns and displaced left turn locations. So even with that, you can see the eastbound direction operations do improve. However, the westbound is still operating at an F. And that is really an indication that allowing those pedestrians at the main intersections is what's really hurting operations along here. So the reason for that, not to get too detailed, but we have to allow more green time at those intersections. Not as much because we have to serve all 4 directions and all turn movements. There's not as much wiggle room within those timings to allow those pedestrians to cross. So that's kind of a summary of what this is showing. You can clearly see the benefit that displacing the pedestrian crossings provides to the corridor. I think with that, are we ready for the simulation?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take this over.
I'm sorry, you came out that way? That was so thoughtful of you.
That's okay. I know back here to speak a little bit. So we need to zoom in a bit, probably.
Is that too dark or is everybody okay?
Even if I'm too zoomed, you won't be able to see. But that looks good. Okay. Can everyone see? I need to speak in the mic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you 2 simulations. This first simulation represents that top, the middle, the 3rd line down, which is only allowing the pedestrians at the main intersection. So this intersection that you see here is Shiloh Crossing Drive. With this, like we mentioned, the westbound was level service F, that you can see on the table. So what you're seeing here is what that looks like on the simulation. You can see the traffic backing, blocking those turn lanes. The blue vehicles that are a little bit tough to see on here, but you can see them, I'm pointing, they're in the turn lane. So the blue vehicles are those waiting to turn left. White vehicles are those traveling through the intersection. There are pedestrians in this model. They're just very difficult to see in this view. So they are modeled in here. Green, thank you. Yeah, so here's those left turn vehicles here. The yellow are those turning right. Once they cross the stop bar, then they turn to a blue color. So the main thing I want to focus on is draw your attention to this significant queuing, which you're probably all familiar with. I think a lot of that happens today, but we don't even have the 3 lanes yet. So this is showing what happens when we accommodate those pedestrians going this way at the main intersection. Now I'll switch the pose. I zoomed out a little bit, just so you can see the interaction. This is the same location. This is Shiloh Crossing Drive. This is the displaced pedestrian crossing with the early left. So that's where, one of the locations we're proposing. So that's where that is modeled. You can see we're not allowing people to turn left out. It's just a right in, right out driveway. We are allowing people to turn left in. And the only time that this direction stops, the westbound, yeah, the only time the westbound stops is for a left turn or for a pedestrian. The only time the eastbound stops is when there's a pedestrian. Sorry, I was going backwards from where you guys were thinking. So the eastbound direction here never stops unless a pedestrian calls to be served. So that's the benefit of one of these, is it's really operating almost as a partial traffic signal. So we're not stopping unless we have a left turn here or a pedestrian crossing there. So again, this over here, we still have traffic volume there. There's still quite a bit of traffic. However, it's not backing up all the way through those turn lanes. I should note that these simulations are up here. We specify the seed number, the exact same seed, the exact same time in the simulation, just the two different alternatives. And both of them represent the PM peak. All the numbers we've been talking about today is the heaviest traffic volume that we see on this roadway, which is during the afternoon peak hour. So that's why we're seeing the westbound a little bit worse. We did analyze AM as well. So in the AM, the eastbound operates a little bit worse than the PM. But that's why you're seeing the westbound operate a little worse.
I have a question. You said that right there where the displaced is, that the eastbound would keep moving unless there was a pedestrian or a left turn. How can there be a left turn there?
So for just pedestrian, for eastbound, it's only if there's a pedestrian.
Okay.
Otherwise, it keeps moving.
Okay,
For the westbound, for this direction,
Right.
only if there's a left turn here.
okay,
That's the only time.
Or
Or a pedestrian, yes.
okay.
Good question. Any other questions? And I can flip back between both of them if you'd like to see
The
it
big
again.
difference is that we don't have those pedestrians crossing north-south there at Shiloh Crossing Drive. We've moved them to Shiloh Park Drive. And so that's why we don't see those significant queuing like
Yes.
we did in the first simulation.
Is that a quarter mile or what is the distance?
Do you have,
I don't have,
let me,
we did lose it. Screen time.
it's roughly 700 feet, is that right?
That does that. Any other questions that we can answer? We have Tim and Tom from NDOT Traffic who can kind of get into any of their details.
Do we have any kind of data on how many pedestrians are actually crossing 36 on a given day?
No, there are no facilities now.
Yes.
Because there's no opportunity for pedestrians to cross north-south now, we aren't, at least when we've been out there, we haven't seen many. Tom, feel free to correct me if I'm misspeaking, but that's not a data point we can collect since we don't have the option for them. So this is providing an option, and it seems to be that there is a need, especially with what you said from the public hearing.
So you're anticipating these displaced pedestrian crossings every,
Just at 5 locations. I'm sorry,
What,
4
4?
total locations.
One's existing.
1 is existing at the Harvest Landing, so 3 new. I can scroll through and show you those.
I'm just thinking, if someone wants to cross to get from Best Buy to Target, they're going to go ahead and cross, I guess. They're not going to walk a quarter mile down to cross at a pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
I will, yes, speak to that. So as the question was before, do we have pedestrian volumes current? And to our knowledge, we don't have any, very few, I guess, and it's not noticeable when you're out there driving that you see any pedestrians typically. Occasionally you'll see somebody walking, crossing at a location that's doesn't have a pedestrian crossing or crossing mid-block somewhere. But we're trying to plan for the future and trying to plan in a way that is safer for the pedestrian as well as more efficient for the corridor. And the data speaks for itself on the efficiency because of how much it delays traffic on 36 when you have the crossing at the intersections. And the reason for that is because most of the traffic at these, other than Ronald Reagan, but most of the traffic at these other intersections is turning. They're not going across. So traffic from Walmart doesn't want to go across to the plaza and vice versa. Typically, it's people turning. So if you only have turning movements, you don't have enough through time to serve a pedestrian crossing. So you have to artificially inflate time to get a pedestrian through at the main intersections. So like at Gable Drive, you got dual lefts, both north and southbound. Most people are turning left or right. So if you force a pedestrian crossing at that location, you're going to inflate the time needed on the side street through movement because most of the traffic is turning left or right and everybody gets served in those left and right turn movements. But those are both conflicting movements with PEDs. So by moving the PEDs away from those intersections, we make it safer for the pedestrian and we make it more efficient for US 36. My goal with proposing these was to kind of change the culture on how we think about trails and PED crossings and not force people to cross where they're not comfortable. I've talked to a lot of different people, and even a Purdue professor, she admitted that she'll walk down the street and cross to a median and cross over instead of crossing at the intersection because she doesn't like the conflicting permitted movements, like permitted lefts, permitted rights, right turns on red even. So those are the permitted movements that are in conflict with pedestrians when they're trying to cross. At these displaced PED crossings, she mentioned there's only 2 conflicts, one from each direction, but those are stopped movements with no movement because I'm actually going to be prohibiting the right turn on red because it's a stop for a PED crossing. So we don't want that conflict to even happen. So we're going to prohibit the right turns on red at those displaced PED crossings. So there will be nobody moving. So there is no conflicting movement when those PEDs are crossing at those displaced PED crossings. So it's very efficient for the PED, very safe for the PEDs. Again, I'm hoping that I can kind of change the culture of way we think about planning trails and pedestrian routes so that we're not necessarily forcing them to go to Ronald Reagan's in this world. You know, it's a heavy volume intersection and it's not a great place to take your family. So
We actually had that same thought, John, and when we looked at this particular intersection, the apartments to the north are kind of under that inset map. Those are the folks that want to cross the Target. And Target's on that end of the shopping center, so they're
Right.
kind of where they need to be. And adding to this point was they also function equally as much as the U-turn for people that are in the block.
Okay.
And so if we don't do that, then we have to accommodate more time in the actual lights.
well said.
And so that makes that worse. So this accommodates, or basically, if you're gonna do that for the mid-block for the U-turns, why don't you just add that?
And I don't know if you noticed on the section we did open up, we did go through and post some locations as no U-turn option at the signals because U-turning is about a third the speed of a left turn movement. So it takes 3 times as long to make a U-turn as it does to make a left turn. So we really didn't want that delay, but we also knew that some of those locations, there were alternatives to making that U-turn where you could go another route to get back to the same direction. So we tried to be very particular in serving the heavier movements, and some of those had heavy right turn movements, and those would be in conflict with the U-turn as well. So we were trying to balance everything efficient. So we'll be doing the same thing and posting some no U-turns at these major intersections. And as she said, accommodating them at some of these displaced bed crossings. Harvest Landing, I would not be advocating any U-turning there because there's really nothing on the north side between Satori and Harvest Landing. And there is, even today, already a heavy southbound right turn movement. So I don't really want those people to be in conflict with the U-turn movement. So I'm wanting to serve those right turners when we have that movement active. So I'm just precluding the U-turn at that location. Others, we will be allowing the lefts, the U-turns, and it's for that reason. We don't want those U-turners to end up at these major intersections wanting to make a U-turn because it's just going to eat up more time, less efficient. And so a lot of that was analyzed in the scenarios where we didn't have the displaced left. So that was showing up in the data that it was also diminishing the efficiency of the corridor. So don't know if I answered that question well enough.
Thank you.
That was kind of the reason for the moving the PEDs to another location.
Okay, yep, thank you.
The one thing I'll maybe add to it too, just, I know they've done this within the Ronald Reagan to Raceway corridor, but that was kind of a short distance. But remember, when they go to the added travel lane, they're also restricting the access. So there'll be a median from Shiloh all the way to Karataman. That's a really long distance. And so the expectation is also that they're going to need to allow people to do U-turns, which is good for us. One of the things we're always worried about on a corridor is if people, as you guys know, people want to be on 36 because there's a lot of cars and there's access. So as they restrict that access, then they reduce the availability of people to be able to get to that retail corridor. So we're trying to balance all these kind of different things. And I think what we've come up here is probably the best solution to balance all of these things. And maybe to Jason's question, you're right, there's not a lot of pedestrians, but even just in the last year, we've had 2 pedestrians killed on US 36. So we know that 36 in the manner in which it is not safe for pedestrians. So we're also trying to balance that to give people some pedestrian crossings. And that's what we had a lot of internal debate about. Well, do we want it at every intersection and at these DPC locations, or where does it make sense to have the pedestrian crossings? And on our side of it, our staff looked at land uses and said, where are people really pedestrians going to want to cross? There's a corresponding component to this. What NDOT does on 36, we will also have to work on making it so that it makes sense for pedestrians to understand that that's where they should go and that's the safest way. So we've talked about signage to even direct like safe crossing this way and like directing people, pedestrian scale signage to direct them to try to go to those locations to cross so that they can do it safely. And again, as traffic increases, our comp plan talks a lot about pedestrian accessibility along 36. And so we're trying to balance that again with moving traffic, but also making it a little bit safer for pedestrians. And there really are probably more pedestrians out there than people realize, but they're doing what Dawn says. They're just running across Target and hoping they make it across alive. Or the other day I saw a guy who he was walking in the middle of the median between the 2 of them. And I'm like, why is he doing that? That's completely unsafe. But they're just, and so you're not, unless you're out there at that moment that they're crossing, you don't really know that they're out there doing some things that are pretty unsafe and that we'd prefer they not do.
I see it happening also from across from Walmart.
And that's
Where I see the most of them.
And that's what, I mean, we looked at that. I mean, that's what, if you go look at where we've put the displaced with the pedestrian crossings, like there's a location there, right there. And it makes perfect sense for it to be at that location because there are a lot of pedestrians crossing there. So,
Well, the neighborhood to the south of it,
correct.
right there, they tend to just pray and run.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what NDOT has done a good job of picking those spots where it makes sense. And we matched them. Linda and Paul and Steve and I spent time looking at how does that impact land use and where are people going to want to cross? And they really did actually correspond pretty well. But there will be some stuff on our end where if that is what NDOT ends up doing, we're going to have to make some adjustments to the pedestrian circulation and trying to direct people to those spots. And that Shiloh Crossing one they showed is a great example. There's no sidewalks currently to where they're putting that DPC welt. So we're going to have to find a way to get pedestrians to that spot. But there's also not a crossing to Shiloh. There's no sidewalks to there. Right now it's directing to Reagan. And so it does make sense eventually for us to try to get sidewalks to that area.
Thank you.
We also thought maybe doing this kind of thing would celebrate the trails along 36 and make it look like it's, instead of just some sidewalks, or trail system. Look, we thought about it, and we put these crossings there. Wow, look at it on, more trails and stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question, a concern about just an experience I've had with the early left turn, displaced left that you currently have at Harvest Landing. It's been on more than one occasion, I've went in there to turn left to go into Costco, and I am close to jerking back into my travel lane to continue eastbound because somebody wants to use that left lane that is for eastbound traffic. They're going westbound. And so I'm about to get hit head on. There's signs. Signs don't stop people from doing a damn thing. Is there a plan to make that safer for vehicles when they are essentially crossing into oncoming traffic? Will there be a raised median for the left side or I guess it would be the north side of those? Am I making sense? Am I?
So
Yeah.
that just happened to me about a week ago. What I thought of, I flipped around to look at it, I honked at my horn like crazy, yeah, my construct, I honked the horn. But he always hit me head on, and so I went back and I reviewed it. I think if we extend that median on the right side even further, it makes it less attractive for them to try to flip that view. The longer they have to go before they can flip, the less attractive it gets, I think. But yeah,
Yes, agreed.
That might be a viable solution, and I don't know if that's what I'm getting at, but that's the problem.
The people that are almost running into you are trying to do what movement?
They're going the wrong direction.
To be fair, I don't know, but I would assume a U-turn.
They're westbounders trying to flip and do a U-turn right there. So
And using the left, the dedicated eastbound
eastbound
left
left,
lane.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Then that's happened to me in places without traffic signals, but the same, you have a slotted left turn lane and I almost have been hit. It was near the Walmart in Plainfield, but it's the same situation without a signal there to turn into the Aldi.
yeah.
And yeah, I know that's a problem.
That curve even longer, it makes it less.
Yeah.
The curve on the south side of the lane makes it feel like it belongs to the north.
So if
I
you
got
look
it,
at your
yeah.
handout and look at the details on any one of these, they're showing center curve extending on both sides.
Well, even better, yeah.
So
So you're channelized.
And we would add that at Harvest Landing.
That's
That's
not just markings, that's not just a half-inch raised curb. That is if you cross this, you're going to damage your car.
Yeah, it transitions, so I'm looking at the one there at, that's at Avon Village Parkway, which is turning left the other direction from what you think of as Harvest Landing. So we start with, we transition from pavement markings to, that is a curb, concrete median and then into the wider median there. But we can definitely look at that and make sure that we've got that extended as far as possible.
Do we have do not enter signs?
We don't have signage yet, but we can
I mean,
definitely,
like,
yes,
is that- yeah.
absolutely.
So
That's a
another
low,
thing.
I wonder if right up here and that spot would work too.
okay.
And so that's what you're going to be.
I'm going to be, so we show we're going to be adding that raised curb through there. So
Through-
it's going to suck, yes.
Through the new ones?
Yes, with the
Will
new
this
ones.
be backtracked to the one there at Harvest Landing as
So-
well? I'm-
It's
So-
all going to be a reconstruction.
Yeah, we're going to have to
All right,
redo that.
reconstruction. Yep, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Jason, any questions?
If we're done, I guess I'd like to take the opportunity to thank NDOT. This has been a very collaborative process. What have we had? Probably 5 meetings over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So appreciate them letting us be part of the process and have a conversation and trying to come up with a solution that meets their needs for moving traffic, but also meets our needs for our community. So thank you guys all for coming and listening and working with us to come up with a solution.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Sean was at the meeting and he's just stepped out of the room, but I know that when he spoke at the public meeting that we had earlier in the year, his concern was with the median down the middle, police cars trying to get someplace quickly in a response time. What ended up happening with that?
He was at the last meeting with us, and he didn't bring it up, but again, I would think the DPC welts would be a benefit because he's having other areas where they have the ability to do a U-turn without having to go all the way down. So for example, the existing section, the only place they can turn is at Ronald Reagan Raceway or at the Chick-fil-A light. There's those only 3 options. Well, there's Sean. Well, I can let Sean answer the question. Yeah, you stepped out just at the right time. Dawn was asking about how you felt about this and your ability to be able to do U-turns if necessary so that you don't have to go a long way to try to turn around.
I think with the quantity that they're talking about, I think it provides a pretty good spot in all those locations. I forget how taller those medians going to be.
The curb height,
The curb height.
they're 4 to 6 inches.
I'm sorry,
4 to 6 inches.
4 to 6.
Yes.
We had those kind of curves here before. We began to negotiate those so that we could proceed in an emergency if we don't.
But I don't want to speak for Sean, but at the first meeting, a lot of his concern was during construction.
Yes.
You want to be,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, during the construction.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure from the public meeting, your comments there were brought back up again, so,
And I think I illustrated those in my written form as well.
yes. Yep, go ahead.
Try to set up Harvest Landing.
Could you speak into a microphone, because those at home can't hear you, sorry.
Thank you. They set up Harvest Landing early so you can try to experience it as quickly as possible besides the turn movements for the cars. Has anyone tried the pedestrian movement on it? Does this look like a good solution? Do people feel safer? Amanda did a study that says it's going to reduce conflicts 40%. But how do you feel crossing it? Just curious.
I have only witnessed people, I've not personally gotten out and done that, but I have witnessed people from the car dealerships walking across to the restaurants on the north side of the road. They don't seem to be standing there shivering, like scared to death. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
can't
I don't, on staff, we hadn't done it, but I know Paul had done it, has maybe done it twice. And I think Paul had expressed that the crossing was comfortable and he felt much safer doing it. I think he's done a couple of the ped crossings along 36. And I think he did say, yeah, that's what he likes to do. I think he did say he felt more comfortable doing that one than some of the others.
I got to give Tim credit because there aren't pedestrian features out there to know what's going on. And so this one comes along and Tim predicted people would want to come from the car dealership and cross to go to the restaurants.
Yeah,
So good
and
job.
they did. Yep, good job.
Yeah, and I actually walked across to talk to those people at the car dealership and just see how they felt about it at the time. But
Mhm.
so they all were thinking that, yeah, we'll use it.
Mhm.
So it's good to hear that they are using it.
I must travel that way during lunchtime. I don't know, because I've seen it quite often. So, anything else? Thank you very much for coming and explaining.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so,
I think they can move these over.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We want to go on? Tiffany, are you ready to move on?
Hey, we're going to continue, everybody. So sorry, but if you want to talk, if you don't mind stepping out so we can keep moving. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, if you take a look at your package, you see that we are discussing the Apex Park sanitation connection.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably know that we received a demand letter requesting that we connect the sewer and abandon the septic tank at the Apex Ballpark. And through that process, we have contacted quite a few different companies. We received some quotes and determined that the best course of action would be to proceed with doing a gravity sewer line with Daystar. And so Shelby plans to present that to you at the next session.
Tiffany, can you talk about just some of the other, I had kind of given the council a heads up that we looked at some other options.
We
Would you
did.
mind just generally talking through some of those options?
Sure. Yeah. So we visited a couple of different things. One of those was demolishing the building altogether, which, because that's in a floodway, rebuilding is not possible. We also considered bringing in mobile restroom facilities and mobile concession facilities, balancing out the costs associated with taking and purchasing the mobile restrooms, having them serviced, having them pumped, connecting them to the electricity. It just was more feasible to connect.
This is the main building there in the middle. That's my best description. Right there in the middle,
Yes.
the field house or whatever.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Why
this,
is it-
so just to be, this is Apex Park, which is the fields at
Former
625.
RBI fields?
That's correct, the former RBI. This is 625 in US 36, the field's there. And so it actually has restrooms in two different buildings. So the concession building is the one kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And it has restrooms in it. But they also built a maintenance building that also has two restrooms in it. So there's actually four restrooms, correct? Okay.
Yeah, there's four.
And they're kind of in two different locations. And what we found was the restrooms from this building actually go to this building, and from that building then to the septic system.
Yeah, the septic is closest to that maintenance building, and so that's where it would be running from to connect over to the sewer line, which is approximately 250 feet.
So we wouldn't have it in the other building.
It would still connect at some point.
Yeah, so this quote is to go from that building to the sanitary system, West Central Sanitary Building. So the other building would still be connected to this, and so the restrooms would still work in both facilities.
For this
So we
amount.
wouldn't lose any capacity. This is just, it would no longer discharge to the septic system, it would discharge to West Central's system.
Is there a
And-
reason that this notice was received in March of 2026 and these facilities have been there for how many years?
I can't speak to that. The initial notice we received December 17th, giving us 90 days. So I cannot speak to why West Central,
December of
December
2025.
of 2025.
Okay.
I can't speak to why West Central didn't do anything for 40 years, but then decided that
Dan, go ahead.
I can't.
I can, but my attorney has advised me not to, so.
So I guess my question is, if they gave us this notice on December 18th and gave us 90 days, we're past that, and now they're wanting to fine us an exorbitant amount of money per month that we're not connected.
Correct. So I guess a couple options. We had been communicating with West Central that we were working on this and that we were having conversations. And so our expectation was that they would be understanding of that, just like we can choose to find people or not find people. And normally we are reasonable with people and we say, well, if you're working on it, we're not going to fine you. So I think because we were communicating, that was our expectation, that they weren't going to fine us. We were working towards resolving the situation. And then last Friday, I got this letter. So I don't necessarily want to talk about that letter, but if that is a concern for you guys, it would be an option. If you guys are comfortable with the option that she's recommending tonight, we don't have to wait 2 more weeks. If you guys want to amend your agenda and put it on there tonight, we know what the cost is, what Tiffany is laying out here for you. But before we put it on our agenda, and again, I hadn't got the letter. I had already sent the agenda to Dawn to talk about this before we got the letter from West Central saying we were being fined. But I felt like I needed to communicate that to you as well, that if that does create some urgency on our part to avoid further fines, you guys could amend the agenda tonight, put that quote on there to award the quote to Daystar, and we could put Daystar in motion, which they may be able to get it done in the next 2 to 3 weeks, which would potentially save us some money.
And I forgive my ignorance, why do we need to connect to this? I mean, it already functions as indicated, right?
State law allows West Central, if they're within 300 feet of our property line, make it mandatory for us to connect. So they're close enough to, as she said, 250 feet. They're within that 300 feet. Once that determination's made, they can send us a notice requiring us to connect. And that's what's happened here. So they can compel it. There are exceptions, exemptions under the statute for when you don't have to be compelled to do so. But they have the right to send us this notice saying you have to connect. And that kind of starts this process, the one in which we're in.
And we don't meet any of those exemptions.
I can't make that determination as of today. That's a determination made by an inspector. An inspector would come out and determine whether or not it's functioning. But it would be my recommendation that you connect.
Is part of your recommendation the fact that it's in a flood zone, and a flood zone with a septic system could cause, there could be more problems? Septic that's in a flood zone?
No, I mean, that's more of an engineering, that's outside of my realm of expertise, but I just believe that connecting is in the best interest of serving that facility rather than having a septic system that's 44 years old.
I am the town's designated floodplain administrator by the state, and I would say, yes, getting it out of the floodplain is pretty important.
I think so too.
And I've also reviewed the structures in relation to what we want to do and any renovations we might want to make in the future, and they're definitely doable for the connection house.
Okay.
Brian, if we amend the agenda and vote on this tonight, are we still liable for this $10,500 plus whatever accrues in the meantime?
Dan and I are addressing that issue as we speak. We just got this letter, so we're looking at that right now. But given that West Central has a resolution that says that they're fining commercial structures $250 a day past their 90-day notice. That's what the resolution says. The state law allows them to impose a reasonable fee past that 90-day of an effective notice. So yes, that they can collect a reasonable fee. Their fee that they've established is $250, but Dan and I are addressing that as we speak.
So yes.
She gave you the legal answer, and I'll give you the business answer. The business answer would be, in order to try to get out of as much risk as possible, the sooner we do it, the better. So again, it's up to you guys what your comfort level is to make a quick decision versus waiting 2 weeks. But 14 days at $250 a day is a substantial amount of money as well. I mean, it's $7,000. So, or wait, did I do my math right? No, I didn't. $3,500. So.
Are you asking us to make a decision on whether we want to put this on the agenda tonight?
No, I'm not. That's just,
Are we doing it in a meeting?
you guys would just have to make a motion if you want to do it during the council meeting. If you don't make a motion, we'll have it on your next agenda.
Okay. Thank you, Tiffany. UDO architectural standards.
Okay, if you want to follow along with me, I hope I explained this well enough. The very first set of pages after the opener page there is what the UDO said prior to September 2024. And the UDO has two different tables. The first table was the base architectural standards. So if you didn't want to use the enhanced standards, here is the absolute minimum you have to do. And that's on the first page. Dawn was specifically interested in the masonry wrap. So I've highlighted that in red and showing how it, not a full first floor, but up to the windows was required for all facades that could be seen from a street, common area, or public park. The next table was the enhanced architectural standards. So if the builder chose to go by the enhanced architectural standards, they would get some density bonuses that you see there at the bottom of the page. Keep in mind, if you were using the enhanced architectural standards, table 1 goes out. You don't apply that anymore. You simply go by table 2. Table 2, then, you look at the perimeter lots, which are the ones you can see the backs of the homes from the perimeter streets. And you'll see that they must have 8 design features listed on the table, which is the following 2 pages. And then you'll notice that they can pick 8 out of any of those 6 categories. Masonry is included there in your pick list, but it's not required. So when we adopted the enhanced standards, masonry was no longer required if they used the enhanced standards. Then after that, you will see what you adopted in September 2024. I want to go to the page that has the yellow little box on it. It's the second of those. And what I've outlined there in green, you'll see that with that change, we said now they have to abide by tables 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3. So now masonry is required on all homes, whether enhanced or not. So what it comes down to are the subdivisions that were approved in between the UDO getting adopted and then this change in 2024 are the ones that do not require brick wrap all the way around. There are 3 of those. So Bellwood, Hope Landing, Harper Estates are those 3. Everything that's been approved since then does have to have the brick wrap and will have to going forward. So we don't think any UDO amendments are needed at this time. And then the final page, I've shown you the 11 by 17 page. This is what we've been working on for Silver Spring. They haven't built much of anything out there but the infrastructure so far, but Paul's been working on the elevations. And so this page north is where the white area is at the top. So you can see the street along the top, and then the backs of the homes that front up to 900. And Paul actually did a little arts and crafts project and cut out the backs of homes to display what they would look like along that street frontage from the permit files. And you can see how we worked pretty hard to get the change of the roof lines, going different ways, single stories versus 2 stories, some roof change of materials, changing colors. I don't have the colors on here, but there are several color changes, and the masonry along the bottom. So we think the current ordinance is effectively doing its job, unless you see something striking that you want us to look at or address. But we think the system's working, so.
Yeah, I think what I was looking at was the things that have
Right.
slipped through the cracks there.
Right.
But if what you've just shown is what we now are our requirements, then I think those look good to me.
So I didn't do it, I've not done this deep dive yet, so I was actually very happy to figure everything out and be able to present it to you tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
No? Thank you. Well, any other topics?
Well, we never get done early.
I know. I can't believe it.
And I was really scared we'd get all of this in with NDOT out here. You guys are nice at NDOT. I don't have anything else unless any of my staff has anything that we have a few minutes that they want to talk to the council about.
None of them look very thrilled. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Go ahead and call the Avon Town Council meeting of May 14th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
Present.
Greg Zuzen, Bill Holland, Jason Puckett,
Present.
Robert Pope.
President.
All right, first on the agenda is the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization check presentation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Town Council. Thank you for having me out here today. Anna Gremling of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization. For those. Green?
Flip the switch.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Anna Gremling of the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization. Every year, we hold a call for projects to award federal funding, sometimes state funding as well. Every time you fill up at the gas pump in central Indiana, we get some of that money back to the tune of about $75 million a year for infrastructure projects. This fall, when we had that call for projects for the $75 million, we received 58 applications from 21 communities that totaled over $218 million. Again, only having the $75 million to award, we do have a very quantitative process to distribute the funding. Your team here at the town of Avon have applied for funding and been very successful over the last several years. And I'm here to award funding for phase 5. And so very excited to do so. And yep, here to present the check and answer any questions you may have, but otherwise it's just very ceremonial.
Thank you. And the amount, do you want to go ahead and tell the public the amount of the check?
$7.3 million, is that right?
322
Yeah.
change, I
Yeah.
think.
So very excited.
Thank you very much. I think what we'll do is go ahead and pause, take a short recess and get some photos. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, including the check register for May 14th, approval of the minutes for April 23rd, as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. Roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Next is public comment. The public may comment on the agenda that is not part of a public hearing tonight or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. If you wish to make a comment, please come forward. Make sure that the green light is on the microphone and state your name and your address for the record. And please limit to 3 minutes.
Hi there. My name is Jay Greenenberg. I live at 7776 Cobble Springs Drive, the Cobblestone Springs neighborhood, the intersection of Rockville Road and Dan Jones. I came here this evening to meet Mr. Zusin. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, but primarily to discuss the new addition to our community of the Ale Emporium. My property is probably 300 yards away from the Ale Emporium, and I sent Mr. Zusin an email that you guys obviously weren't privy to on April 27th, and then I sent a follow-up email on May 6th, letting him know that I'd be coming here to shake his hand and discuss. So in the efforts to stay under 3 minutes, maybe I just summarize what I'm thinking and have it be on the record for maybe a future date when I can catch up with Mr. Zusin. But I bought my home 17 years ago, and like everyone else in this community, I've seen a lot of growth and was excited for the Ale Emporium to come to Avon. I had never been to an Ale Emporium, heard good things. December of last year, kids gave me gift cards. I was excited to be walking distance, and everything was good. They opened middle of March, and I immediately noticed the smell of a restaurant, but I determined I could live with that, right? Because it's a restaurant and that's what they do. So I was willing to accept that. But what I wasn't prepared for was the addition of the live music that began on Friday, April 10th. I went through, I contacted Drew Wilson with Avon Code Enforcement. I called him on April 13th. Just to do some background search and have him educate me on what things, topics like permits, noise levels, and time restrictions for noise. And he was helpful, but it seems like the only thing that I had to my benefit was a quiet hours from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. in general, but nothing really in the books as far as volume levels. After that, a few hours later, I spoke to the manager, Nicole, at Ale Emporium, and chatted with her, told her I was her neighbor. You could see my house from their patio, and asked if they had a system in place to monitor volume levels. And they said no, but they were aware of the codes in Avon and would abide by the 11 p.m. cutoff time. And so our 3-minute conversation ended relatively quickly with no resolve. Basically, it's not necessarily the volume level, it's more the bass, right? The drums, the bass, the constant thud, which goes on during their live music. And I noticed that, so for this week, they'll have a band Friday and Saturday, which is standard, right? But I did notice on their schedule, the next week and the following week, they have entertainment Thursdays at 7, Fridays at 8, Saturdays at 8, and Sundays at 6. And that'll be for the next 2 weekends after this weekend. So to wrap it up, and I appreciate everybody's time, I'm just questioning the options that I might have available to try to come to a solution with Ale Emporium, and kind of question unregulated music levels in the close proximity of my neighborhood. And other than that, that's all I had. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward during public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on with department updates.
Linda Albrand, Planning Director. Just want to bring you up to date on some of our cases. Our BZA meeting scheduled for next week has been canceled due to lack of business. We are aware of 2 new cases to be filed for the June meeting for the vacant site next to Sevenberg. The Plan Commission next week or 2 weeks will hear Avon Logistics Building 6, and that's on 100 South, for a new building there. The Shiloh Crossing minor plat, that's the corner of Shiloh and US 36 across from Target. There's a little bit of a vacant area that they're trying to create a small lot. And the Rights Gymnastics, which you'll hear an introduction tonight, that will be going the zoning amendment as well as the development plan review. And then looking ahead to June, we are looking at a new plat for some additional houses at Fairwood, and then a project called Nirvana Sports, which will be to the west of the movie theater. There's a failed building foundation that's been there about 10, 15 years, north of a title company, east of City View Church, north of Carpenter Realty. It's a business venture that wants to do a indoor recreation they're going to do indoor swimming, lessons for little kids, and some racquetball courts and that sort of thing. So that's what we have going on. Any questions?
Nothing, thank you.
Steve Moore, Public Works Director. Yes, the work today on Dan Jones has probably been noticed. Duke Electric has been cutting trees per the plan with notice to the adjacent property owners. The town, we're planning to do some tree mitigation. So we're giving the property owners an opportunity to pick from our list trees to replace the ones that are being damaged or removed. So the town is going to help with the future screening of their homes as well. But anyway, it's objective. 100 North of Raceway roundabout is probably the next thing people are talking about. The progress there is with utilities still. There was a sanitary sewer line that was found that was not reported by Citizens Energy or Citizens Water. I'm not sure which they are, but we're going through the process of having a design approved. Within 24 hours, I have to say this, our consultant did a great job. Within 24 hours of noticing that there was a line that wasn't where it was supposed to be, when it's supposed to be there at all, we got a design and a permit and got it submitted for approval within 24 hours. Thought that was pretty great. I mean, that was a combination of our inspector doing some field shots, our design engineer taking that information and getting it submitted to Citizens. So I think that's pretty good. But now we're at the mercy of their design review process, and we'll see how that goes. We have more utilities that are still relocating. We have just 2 more that we know of. Spectrum and Comcast have a couple of lines they have to remove and then hook up their new, but they're getting close. Dan Jones widening phase 3. Again, we use new utilities with Duke. We also have other utilities that are moving on the east side of the road. We got some boring going on, and right after they're done, then we'll move into doing some. Duke's going to do their transmission lines, so that's coming up too. Phase 4, we're in design and probably, I don't know which price, 60% mark at this point. Phase 5 of Dan Jones, we got the money. CCMG, they're going to be starting possibly next week. There are 11 roads throughout the town that are going to be repaved as part of that project. Sidewalks and trails, we will start next week on a number of sidewalks being repaired. In particular, on McGregor Street, a bunch getting done there, and ramps. And then that will tie into Autumn Faith, which is one of the roads that are getting paid with CCMG, which will tie into the new subdivision that it will open up later this year. Stormwater utility, we just started a little bit of work over by Pine Tree. That's where we're going to actually enclose the ditch on the south side of 100 South, in between Dan Jones and Austrian. So we've done some work to just get rid of the water right now. Design is going to start after that. So they'll get the new elevations and they'll use that as part of the design. But yeah, that's going to get enclosed, and then we'll connect the sidewalk all the way to the roundabout, from Bellwood to the roundabout. 475 and 500 East, north of 150 North. Over time, the farms have tilled in our ditches, and we had some flooding this spring. And so we had some ditching done, and it looks, new swales constructed. And it's looking pretty good out there. So then we have a bunch of pipes that we're going to replace throughout town, and that's going to happen over the next few weeks. So any questions? Thank you.
So thanks.
Good evening, Sean Stoops, Chief of Police. Just to speak a little bit about the updates on our training facility. The lead remediation cleanup is just about finished. I know I keep saying that, but we've really kind of held their feet to the fire to make sure that we get as much of that out of there as we possibly can. So Lieutenant Owens and I have both been going in there on a regular basis and doing some spot checks. And anytime we find any, the company's handled it very well. They've come back in every time so far, and they were just there yesterday to clean up some stuff, some other stuff that we had found. And so we're really trying to get the most out of that remediation company and as far as the lead contamination and so forth. So just walking in there now, you can tell it just smells better, feels better. You can just tell it's been cleaned out. So we're pretty pleased with that. I also want to thank Steve Moore. He's been working with us on the outside of the drainage project that's on that property. And I think he's found a solution that's going to help us get some ground level elevation use out of a drainage area that's a pretty deep ravine right now. So we want to thank him and appreciate him working on that with us. We've been approved to move forward with the HVAC repairs and replacement, and we're waiting for all the necessary parts and equipment to be shipped before they start working on that. Our merit board met last month and tendered a final conditional offer of employment to Jacob Redmond. Once he successfully completes the psychological and medical examinations, he'll be given a start date. So we're excited to bring him on board. Our road enforcement officers have been really focusing hard on our traffic enforcement, especially with all of the construction zones and everything. We really want to try to make everybody moving through the town as safe as possible and really trying to keep them on their best driving behavior. So they've really been focusing on that, OWI enforcement, as well as aggressive driving. We want to wish Officer Sergeant Sean Diebold and his wife Heather congratulations on their new baby. I included a picture there for you to take a look at it, and they're all healthy. We congratulate them on that. Officers Bussey, Sumner, and Wilson have all completed their field training program and have been released to solo patrol. So we have them out there working right now. And we currently have Officer Adam Sajak is currently at the ILEA right now. He's doing very well. I think this is weeks 2 or 3. So he still has a little bit of ways to go, but we're excited to get him trained and get him back out there on the road as well. This is National Police Week. There is a ceremony tomorrow in Danville at the courthouse rotunda. It's on Friday, tomorrow, the 15th at 12 p.m. If you've never been there, it's not a real long ceremony, but it is somewhat impactful. I encourage you to take advantage of that if you have an opportunity to be there. As we're gathered here this evening, please join me in taking a moment to honor the brave men and women who serve and protect our communities with courage, integrity, and selflessness. National Police Week is not only a time of recognition, but it's also a time of reflection, gratitude, and remembrance. Every day across our nation, law enforcement officers put on their uniforms knowing that they may face danger, uncertainty, and possible sacrifice. Yet they do so willingly, driven by their commitment to uphold the law, protect others from harm, and their bravery often goes unseen, their sacrifices unnoticed, but they never waver in their duty. National Police Week also calls upon us to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. These fallen heroes answered the call of duty and gave their lives so that others could live safely and in peace. Their names, their stories, and their legacy will never be forgotten. We stand here today in their honor, and we extend our deepest condolences and gratitude to their families they left behind. To the families of law enforcement officers, thank you. Your support, your strength, and your sacrifices are essential in ensuring that their service is successful. You share in our burdens of the job. Your resilience makes the work of our officers possible. To the officers who continue to serve, thank you. Thank you for the long hours, for the risks you take, and for the compassion you show. Thank you for running towards danger when others must run away. Your dedication strengthens the very foundation of our communities. National Police Week reminds us that behind every badge is a human being, a neighbor, a parent, and a friend. It reminds us that true service is built on courage, accountability, and compassion for others. May we never forget the cost of freedom and the individuals who unselfishly protected it and provided it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Any other department heads, Julie?
You probably got in your email today a notice that I have closed out April, so you have reports waiting for you if you haven't already seen them. Everything is looking good so far. Getting close to halfway through the year, and we're right on track like we should be. I want to talk about solicitor permits. We have a lot of solicitors going around the town right now. There's only one company approved, and they only have a few people approved to be soliciting within our town limits, and that is Joink. Their permits are coming to an end, however, and if they want to renew them, they can. But I always remind people, if you don't want anyone coming to your door, please post a no soliciting sign on your door, and then feel free to reach out if for some reason that is violated. I have 19 applications. I believe I'm waiting on background checks to be completed for a pest control company. Once those are completed, the ones that are approved with background checks, I'll issue permits to. So was it Moxie? It was Moxie. I think it's Moxie is the name of the company that would be out within the next month then, coming door to door. Other than that, everything's going good. Calvin just left today, so we'll reconvene in June and get you some good numbers then.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay.
That was very dramatic for nothing, sorry.
Yeah, that pretty much was. Council comment and liaison reports.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me.
I'll say nothing for me. Moving on to new business.
I'd like to make a motion to amend our meeting agenda tonight to discuss the Apex Park sanitary connection.
Thank you. We'll add that.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Julie, roll call.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next is Avon Youth Civic Engagement Council update.
Y'all maybe just do a brief introduction. Nancy, come on up. You're fine. Sorry. Just to remind everybody, this is an effort that we support at the high school, the Youth Civic Engagement Council, and Nancy is the president. And so at the end of every school season, this does run school year. So this is the end of the school year for Nancy and her term as president. So we always ask the president to come and give the council an update of the things they did. So with that, I'll turn it over to Nancy.
Nancy. In case the green light's not on, could you?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Good evening, members of the Town Council, community leaders, and guests. On behalf of the Youth Civic Engagement Council, I am proud to present a summary of our accomplishments during the 2025 and 2026 school year. Throughout the year, our council focused on strengthening civic participation, promoting service, encouraging respectful dialogue, and supporting the well-being of students and families in our community. This year also marked a period of significant growth for our organization. Membership in the council increased steadily throughout the school year, with more students becoming involved in service projects, civic initiatives, and leadership opportunities. This growth reflects a rising interest among students in making a positive impact within both our schools and the broader community. This year, our council organized and staffed voter registration booths during several high school football games in support of increasing voter awareness and participation surrounding the local referendum. This was early, like July, August, when it was going on. These events provided community members with opportunities to register to vote, learn more about civic involvement, and engage in the democratic process. Through these efforts, students gained firsthand experience in civic engagement while helping encourage informed participation within the community. Next, members of our councils attended multiple Project Civility Summits throughout the school year. During these events, students served as representatives of our schools and communities, participating in discussions centered on respectful communication, leadership, and constructive civic engagement. These experiences allowed students to collaborate with peers and community leaders while promoting the importance of civil discourse. Then, one of our council's most notable accomplishments this year was organizing our first ever AHS Courtyard Cleanup Initiative. Over the course of 3 days, more than 20 volunteers came together to clean, improve, and beautify shared outdoor spaces on our school campus. As a project that had never been attempted before by the council, its success demonstrated the dedication and initiative of our members. The strong volunteer turnout and positive results have given us excitement and confidence to pursue even larger community improvement projects over next year. Another major achievement was successfully planning the launch of a Bring Change to Mind chapter at our middle school beginning next school year. This is middle school South. Our high school currently has a chapter, but our middle schools doesn't, and it was really important to bring mental health advocacy to our middle school. This initiative will promote mental health awareness, reduce stigma surrounding mental health conversations, and help create a supportive environment where students feel encouraged to seek help and support one another. Then, this spring, the Youth Civic Engagement Council hosted a canned food drive to support families in need within our community. Thanks to the generosity of students, staff, and community members, the council collected and donated 20 bags of food and supplies to Marilee Meyer Food Pantry. This effort reflected the compassion and commitment of students working together to support local families. The accomplishments of this year have created strong momentum for the future of the Avon Youth Civic Engagement Council. The growth in membership, the success of new initiatives, and the increasing involvement of students in community service all provide encouragement and optimism for next year. We look forward to continuing to expand opportunities for students to lead, serve, and strengthen our community. Thank you for your time and continued support of Youth Civic Engagement Council.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Jim's also going to share a few words. Jim helps facilitate this program for the town.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much for your support also, and thank you for supporting the Youth Council. As I was looking at and repeating the anthem, Pledge of Allegiance, I was thinking about my mom and my dad, who were part of the greatest generation from back in the Depression times. My dad served in World War II. And we're trying to create, and I have no doubt will be there, the next greatest generation, which includes Nancy and several of her compatriots. I am so fortunate to work with these young people. In fact, would love to have my grumpy old men friends who think that the kids aren't any good to be with them. But I'd like to thank you also, because as I was thinking about what our Pledge of Allegiance, and that we're not divisible, but come together, I think about the town councils, the city councils that I used to participate in as a Chamber of Commerce executive for about 25, 30 years in Kokomo, Ellisville, Fort Wayne, Peoria, Illinois, and a lot of places. So it was my position to come here as a chamber executive to do that. I've been too remiss now that I have a consulting company to not come to these enough. So I do salute you, but I wanted to talk, as I did to Ryan, about some things that are happening, very exciting, that the Avon Youth Council will be part of. I don't know if you're familiar with the Mitch Daniels Leadership Foundation that trains young people, young to me, 30s and 40s. And then there is the Bob Orr Fellowship, which has training for leadership, continuing leadership for the 20s. Well, Teresa Lubbers, the president of the Sagamore Foundation, Sagamore Institute, and I have approached Eric Holcomb about creating the Holcomb Youth Civic Engagement Councils, working with AIM and Sagamore Institute. It was started by Senator Coates, and he said yes. He made some conference announcement about it back in February, but he's been very busy, even his retirement. So that's going to be growing, and the Avon Youth Council will be one of the founding members of that as part of AIM. And this will gather, hopefully, hundreds of youth councils around the state as we develop them. And there'll be a conference in the fall or the spring that's yet to be said. But that, I wanted to let you know about that. And I've been fortunate to work with Avon now for, I think, right after the COVID stopped. And it's so many good, terrific young people like Nancy. Nancy didn't mention that she just was granted the opportunity to go to the University of Chicago also. So I'm just proud of these young people and proud of you for what you're doing here. In conclusion, in my career, I got to meet a lot of people, and Senator Lugar was one of them. And I was having lunch with him 25 years ago, probably. And I said, Senator, what's the most difficult lobbying group you've had to deal with? And I thought he might say United Auto Workers or Big Steel or big banks or something like that. He paused and he said, neighborhood associations, back when he was mayor. So I know you would appreciate that. That is where the rubber hits the road. And I thank you for being here. I'm going to be encouraged to go to my city council meetings for what you're doing here. So we thank you very much. And we'll keep working with the young people whom I consider the next greatest generation. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Nancy. Next is the introduction of zoning amendment 2601, Wright's Gymnasium. Linda, who's?
I'll just briefly introduce it for you. This is a property on Kingston Street. It is partially zoned C2, partially zoned I2. I did a research on the maps, the historical zoning maps, and it is not a mapping error. They do need to rezone in order to use the whole property for a commercial business. The business they're wanting to do is gymnastics facilities fall in a weird place because they need big buildings that are like industrial buildings, but they're a commercial business. So this kind of sandwiches right in the middle of those, and this property just needs to have its zoning cleaned up for this business. But I'll let the petitioner do a brief introduction.
Thank you.
Hi, Dylan Reynolds with Space Co. I'm actually the civil engineer representing the ownership group of Alt Construction and Wright's Gymnastics for this project. They couldn't be here tonight, so I'm kind of filling in for them. But yeah, just like Linda said, essentially this site kind of has a weird situation where it's one parcel, but it has two different zoning classifications. I don't know the history of that, but it is currently C2 and I1. So the request is to go totally to a C2 zoning to allow the use. I think it technically falls under like indoor recreation, but right now it'll be a 20,000 square foot building. Wright's Gymnastics is planned to take about 12,000 square feet, and then there'll be a couple speculative tenant spaces with that. They don't have any users yet. I think they're targeting kind of what I'm calling exercise adjacent tenants, yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, kind of those exercise uses. It's not locked in stone. That's kind of just their thoughts. But regardless, Wright's Gymnastics will be the first tenant and need that C2 classification. So that's what we're looking for. It's already a third that way. So we're just really kind of trying to clean up that zoning and go for a total C2 use. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or we can leave it at that.
Questions, comments?
I don't think this is a question for you. I think it's more for this sounds similar to what we just did to a property back where Red Curb Comedy Club was. Is this similar situation where this is the best fit? This is what it probably should have been, but through some error, we're here?
I don't know that I'd say that this is as similar to the red curb site. The red curb site gradually changed into commercial uses over time without being properly zoned. This is a vacant parcel, undeveloped parcel, and it sits right on the boundary between commercial and industrial, and it could go either way, and it's just going one way or the other. And Kingston Street's a little bit of a hodgepodge of uses in this area, both commercial and industrial, and so
Yeah.
we think either zoning would be appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
If there's nothing else to add or no more questions, then we'll go ahead and consider the introduction of the 2601.
Thanks.
Thank you. Resolution 2026-13, accepting drainage easement from the library.
Do you want to? Did you guys want to do the
wanna go
quote
ahead and
from,
move on?
for
Okay.
the Apex Park?
Sure, let's go ahead and discuss the Apex Park connection. Thank you.
So as we discussed at the work session, the Parks Department looked at several options. The town received a notice that we had to connect to the sanitary sewer. So we did investigate several options, including demolishing the building, using temporary restrooms. We looked at a low pressure system. We looked at a gravity system. We weighed out all the different options. After reviewing all those options, our recommendation is to use a gravity system. We did get 3 quotes for that gravity system. The low quote was from Daystar Directional Drilling, and that low quote was for $46,450.93. And it is our recommendation you approve that quote. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, this obviously wasn't budgeted. How do you plan to pay for it?
Yeah, Shelby has been looking at her budget. There are some things she was planning to do this year that she may just not be able to do. And so we will cut something else. I don't know exactly what those things were. I apologize. Today's Shelby's birthday and her daughter had a softball game, so she couldn't be here. But we'll get back to you guys on those things and share with you exactly how she's going to pay for it. But we would use food and beverage funds to pay for it.
Ryan, do we need to include in our motion the connection tap fee or the tap inspection fee?
Yeah, I think I have the authority to pay for that as long as you guys approve the quote. So I think those other fees I could approve as long as you guys approve the quote.
Questions, discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote for Daystar Directional Drilling in the amount of $46,450.93 as presented.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the motion needs to include to allow the clerk treasurer to make payment on that.
No, I think it's okay. They'll bill us just like anything else. So I think that should be okay.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
I'll second the motion.
Julie, roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Moving on, Resolution 2026-13, accepting drainage easement from the library.
Yeah, this is a little unusual, but normally, or actually our stormwater management ordinance requires that drainage infrastructure be put in a drainage easement. And in order for us to be able to inspect it and make sure that there's not illicit discharges or anything like that, normally you'll never see that. That's normally addressed on development projects when they do their plats or their development plans. They do that. Since the library is a little bit unusual, they didn't have to actually go through that process when they did their expansion, but the ordinance still requires them to do this step. So they are going through that process. This is actually required by ordinance, but the town council actually has to accept. The easement basically just says we have the right to go on the property to inspect it. And so this resolution just authorizes us to tell them it's okay. So again, kind of unusual, but it's pretty straightforward.
I move we adopt resolution 2026-13, accepting drainage easement for the library as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope.
4.
Next is Resolution 2026-14, affirming no access assessed.
Yeah, so every year, the redevelopment commission is required to make a determination of if there's any assessed value that can be passed through. I provided you guys a copy of the resolution that the RDC actually passed their determination that there is no excess assessed value to pass through. There's a list of projects, and I know you guys are aware of all of these things too, in our capital improvement plan, projects that we want to do. If there was more money coming in than what we needed to spend, then we would pass through assessed value. In this case, we don't have that situation. So the RDC basically passed that recommendation. Our town attorneys would like you guys to affirm that just to make sure we're compliant with state law. So this resolution just is the town council affirming that you agree with the determination made by the RDC. Happy to answer any questions.
If no discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-14, affirming no excess assessed value as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett.
4.
Resolution 2026-15, approving Avon Landing modifications. Looks like Anna.
Yes, this is me. So what you have before you is a resolution approving an agreement. This came about because this has to do with the 2 bonds that were issued in the past in connection with the VTRE project and Landings Phase 2 project. So essentially what's happened here is that whenever you issue a bond, you have a financing and covenant agreement. That's part of that bond issuance. That was amended at some point. There are 2 parties that were involved in that financing and covenant agreement. One of those entities is wishing to sell their interest to another entity. In this instance, it would be the Avon Landings Commerce Park Land LLC. In order for that to happen, since we're a party to that financing agreement, we have to consent to them amending it. And what they're going to be doing is assigning all of their interests and obligations under the financing and covenant agreement to another party, and we're just consenting to that. So the same obligations and rights are still there. It's just a different party is stepping into their shoes. And so we're just saying that that's okay by authorizing Ryan to sign this agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't think, it doesn't have anything to do with bonds or anything like that. So it's just merely principles changing within that organization.
It's simply substituting one party for another, but we stand in the same position as we did before.
Okay. If no questions, we'll entertain a motion.
I move we adopt resolution 2026-15, approving Avon Landing modifications as presented.
Second.
Julie, roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. Moving on to ordinance, introduction of ordinance 2026-07, the Riverwalk District.
Yeah, we discussed this at the a work session last month. Republic Development in the Riverwalk District reached out to us. This really pertains to the proximity of the Riverwalk District, but it also has to do with the alcohol permits. There's actually a provision in the state law that encourages the development along rivers. And so that's part of the reason we called it a Riverwalk District. And so if we want to create that, if there's an area within 1,500 feet of the Riverwalk District, then the town can create a process to support liquor license to be issued to those areas. The town still doesn't have final say. We just get to make a recommendation. And the ATF still makes the final determination on whether those get issued or not. I will say there's a couple things in here. You'll remember, I think when Anna kind of talked to you guys about this, there's certain requirements. You have to be within a certain distance, but we also have to talk about what we would support that for. And so if you guys read the ordinance, the point of this area is to encourage economic growth and development through private investment by new restaurants, breweries, wine shops, and entertainment proprietors within the Avon Riverwalk district. So those would be the type of businesses that if they approached us and asked for a license that we would support. And so we've kind of created those categories within the ordinance. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. There is an exhibit that shows the 1,500 feet and where the area that would be encompassed by this Riverwalk district. And certainly Anna can help answer any questions if you have any questions on the legal issues. This is just an introduction, so you don't have to vote on it.
Any questions? All right, we'll go ahead and consider it introduced. Moving on to introduction of ordinance 2026-08, amending the building admin fees.
Yeah, we discussed this also at the last work session. The building department reviewed their fees. We did go through a process to determine what we believe our actual costs are to be able to provide the services required by those permits. And so we are recommending an increase in those fees. The last time we reviewed our fees was in 2019. Some of the fees went up quite a bit. Some of them stayed about the same. You guys will recall that there were a couple of items in there that the council asked us to add in. So there is a slight revision. I think those additional items ended up working out to be about $34 per building permit. So if you look at the numbers, you'll notice they say like $634 or $534 or $134. That $34 was the additional cost for those other things you guys asked us to make sure were accounted for. So we feel good about those recommendations and that they do actually cover our costs. I will also, you guys do have at your desks, Beggy provided a letter to the council. And so I provided a copy of that to all three of you, and the two council members who aren't here, I believe they emailed all of you as well. So we did share this with Beggy, and we had met with them when we did the planning stuff. They didn't ask to meet with us on the building stuff, but we did share our information and how we came up with their fees. So we did what we could to keep them in the loop. Again, this is introduction, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think one of their points was they were concerned that we have a rational nexus to the service provided and that the fees aren't arbitrarily created. And I think that we've documented that they aren't arbitrarily created.
Yeah, and even in their own analysis, I think it's only a $300 increase from on a typical building permit.
$352.80.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not substantial. If you assume inflation over 6 years, that's not far off from what we're charging now, so.
Yeah, and no increases. The last time we increased was 2019, and we all know that, costs go up, wages go up, insurance goes up, everything goes up, so. Any other comments? If not, we'll go ahead and show that as introduced and move on to legal counsel report. Thank you. This will be the second opportunity for public to come forward. No one coming forward, so we'll move on to council comment. The only thing that I would say is I would want to respond to Jay. Thank you for coming and talking with us. And Ryan, could you make some comments or some guidance to Jay and his concerns that he had about the El Emporium music? Did you say that we do have some things?
Yeah, I know Drew is working on it. We've had several other complaints as well. Drew has had conversations with El Emporium. They've are trying to be accommodating. There are some volume requirements. We did not previously have a way to measure those. We have purchased something to measure those, and I believe Drew's going to be out on Saturday night, and he's going to take some measurements to see what they are. Again, I don't know exactly yet what the situation is. We've also asked Ale Emporium just if they can try to be a good neighbor and try to turn the volume down. There may be some other options as well, trying to create some buffers or planting some additional landscaping to try to help the situation. And so we are trying to work through some solutions and certainly respect the property owners, but certainly Ale Emporium is a good addition to our community as well. So we want to balance out both of those needs and try to come up with solutions. So we are trying to work on those, and we'll work with the property owners to try to come up with something that works for everybody.
Thank you. Council calendar.
Your next meeting is May 28th. No work session at this point. I may talk to you guys about an executive session, but I'll work with you on that, Dawn. It may or may not be necessary, but otherwise just plan on 7 PM on the 28th.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.